Thank you. Thank you very much. It's the first time I'm inside this building in my whole life. And I'm here to explain the curious fact that the 59-year-old professor at the Department of Public Health at Karolinska Institute was the first one to sell software to Google from Sweden. That's sort of strange. That has to be explained. So that's why I borrowed this title from Steinbeck here, The Old Man and Google, a short story. Basically, the explanation is very easy. It wasn't me, of course. A lot of people have attributed this software to me, except one person. And that was when I lectured in California 2006, and I had a very nice response, and people rushed up. And the second one was Larry Page, the founder of Google. And he looked at me, upside down. I was standing like that, looked at me, and then he looked me into my eyes and said, "Who wrote the code?" He said. He has had to see me in the spot station, and this man didn't do it, Everyone else is so polite, a 60-year-old male, Caucasian, tall, white, professor from Sweden, medical doctor. You do attribute a lot of things to them. It was my young son, his wife, and a small group of Flash programmers in Sweden who developed this. And I've just been going water skiing after them, collecting the prizes. And this is very interesting. And this is really, sometimes this is the core problem in entrepreneurship. Who do the work? Who gave birth to the brainchild? Who did the work and who gets the credits? Sometimes that's more important than who gets the money. Because it's really what innovation is about, and at that stage when you see, this was my brainchild, I worked on it, now it has to go to next step. How do we manage these transformations? Well, we did it to avoid all sort of conflicts. I took all the credits, and I didn't do anything. I was the one who got invited to Handels to talk. What did we do then? Well, as often, an innovation is driven by a need. Someone needs something. Basic research, sometimes, out of pure curiosity, we discover just completely new things. But when you go to more applied science, or you go to business, to real life and society, there's a need. And someone can't fulfill that need. And then they start to think, how could I fulfill this need? And this is what this story is all about. I did this test, you've seen this on the web, with the students at Karolinska. I asked them which country had the highest child mortality, and it's Turkey, Poland, Russia, Pakistan, and South Africa, and they only had 1.8 correct answers, and that's worse than the chimps who get 2.5. So it's a basic discovery here. And why were they worse than random? This was really discovered. It was when you do a research, you collect your material. First you see this is the outcome, you get a descriptive table, and you say, well, these students are ignorant. That's my first reaction, They don't know. They could have 5 scores. If they knew that Turkey had higher child mortality than Sri Lanka, they knew that South Korea was more successful, Malaysia was more successful, they would have scored high. They only have 1.8 correct answers out of 5, and then I thought they were ignorant. But when I realized, suddenly, in a split of a second, that they were worse than random, I realized I had a discovery. Difference between research, result, and discovery. Because you can't score 1.8, and I did this 3 semesters, so I had a huge number of students. Now, my confidence interval was 0.4, So I knew that they were worse than 2.2. And you can't score worse than random due to ignorance. It's impossible. Because had I not given them the question, just giving them the answer in form, they would have scored better. It means they had preconceived ideas. The only explanation for scoring worse than random is that you have preconceived ideas. So something stopped them from realizing that Asia had moved ahead of Europe. It's the magnitude and speed of change in Asia that is not understood, that is not taught in the Swedish school system. It is the arrogance of the West European global aristocracy that stops people from understanding what is happening in the world, or at least being delayed to the extent that the chimps are better. And I don't know if I have in this graph here. Yeah, I did the professors at Karolinska, and they were on par with the chimps. That's very funny. Yeah? And then they, when I asked them, they had this G7 mindset, you know, that there was a Western world and a developing world. And the explanation they gave was long life in small family and short life in large family. That's the difference. And I found very interesting that many referred to the problem of having had problem-based learning in school. Because when I asked them, where is Kazakhstan? Yeah, they would know Borat, but that's about it. And I would ask them, where really is Chile? Where really is Iran? Where is Tunisia? You know, several times students have raised their hand and said, we have problem-based learning. We didn't learn country by country. But we really learned the difference between the Western world and the developing world. And that was the fact that in Western world, you know, people were healthy and they just had 2 kids because kids survived. And the developing world, they had all these numbers of kids, but many of them died. So this was my problem now, was identified. Gosh, these young students came out of Swedish school system with the highest grades in everything you can get. They got into Karolinska and they know less than the ship. That was my problem. How can I save them while there's still time? You know? How can I show them the exit? Because this is not something we don't know. We know bloody well how many children there are per woman in the world. We know bloody well how well children survive. The uncertainty is plus minus 10%, you know. How do we know it? It's not by registration or normal, you know, censuses. It's a system of survey of representative household that you ask whether they have given birth to a child or a child have died. It's called Demographic Health Survey. It's sponsored by United States taxpayers. It's done together with the best national expertise. It's transparent. All the data sets are free on the internet. It's just a good thing which is done. So we know the child mortality in countries, but not within countries. It's just a sample of 3,000 households. So this is stuff like we know. So this is not the problem. The problem is, how can I take this knowledge and bring it not just into the eyes, but into the visual cortex and then up in the brain. So they understand it and see that the world is not as they thought it was. You know? Because what they think is that the world was a little like here. If I would put this at 1949, more or less, when I was born, you know, I go for full screen here, and we said, we have to show the change in the world not by visuals but by animation. My son Ola used to say that you cannot explain the world in images because it's changing. You have to animate. And for centuries, the x-axis down here has been occupied by time. So we decided to go liberate the x-axis. And take it away, so we could show number of children per woman down here, life expectancy up here. Each bubble is a country. This is Russia, this is Germany, this is United Kingdom. Up here, see lucky Sweden, 1949, no war for a long time. 71 years in life expectancy, 2.39 children. And down there was United States. Japan was sort of recovering. We can go very rapidly there. Japan had recovered after the war, and they were up here. You could really see 1951, we had a Western world up here. It is not that the students' concept of a Western world and the developing world is completely fantasy or wrong. It's just old. It did exist. And here we have all these developing countries. You can see colors here. These are the African countries, Middle East, mainly Arab countries, South Asia, blinking there, East Asia, blinking there. There were very few in-between countries. One in-between country was Cuba. 1950, Castro was still at university. Cuba was almost closer to United States than to Brazil, down here. I can enlarge this a little more by taking away a toolbar there. So how has the world changed? We wanted to get into the brain how the world has changed. Have these sort of, say, developing countries, have they got better health? Have they got smaller family? And then we animated it, and we can regulate the speed. So running it a little slow, I can run it like this. And you can see how health is getting better and better. That was the big leap forward by Mao Zedong. It went the wrong way. But then Deng Xiaoping took over, and things went better in China. And you can see the Arab countries were late in reducing family size. But then they ran on pretty fast, and here is the new world. This is the hit animation we have done, showing that the world used to be like this, two sorts of countries. Exactly as the students learned in school, that these were the Western world, they had long life, small family. This was the developing world, they had short life and large family. And that was what was 1960, and this is what is now. Swedish students have the view of the world that correspond to reality, the year their teachers were born. It's about the lag time. We can then look at certain countries. You can go back here to 1950, and we can pick there Iran. Iran 1950. We would like to compare Iran to not France, Italy. We had Italy 1952. We had Iran 1952. We can also focus this a little more by doing like this. All nice interactive stuff here. So we can zoom it like this. And what has happened? I can take away all the others, so we just focus on Iran. Iran was then 1952. There was a hopeful democratic development that was to be broken by the Western secret agents who crushed the growing democracy to control the aid. The oil in Iran, and then we had the Shah period, and then we had the Islamic Revolution. So what has happened in Iran? Number of children per woman and life expectancy are surprisingly good in Iran. How do I know? Because I personally know the professionals who are in charge of the compilation of the data. There's quite a good collaboration in United Nations, and we know the people who do it. There are fake data coming out of North Korea and during a long period from Libya. But beside that, there are very few countries with fake data. Some countries invest very little in data. Some countries doesn't publish all the data they have. But this sort of data, and it's sort of impossible to fake it. It's like trying to fake the weather. It's impossible. You have satellites, it's known. So this is actually what happened, when Iran developed into Italy. Like the eradication of smallpox was important, and then they came up here. This was the revolution when they forbid family planning, and the Ayatollah changed their mind, and they really decreased family size. And today, Iran is up there. The Islamic Republic of Iran today have the same family size as Italy had 1979. And they have the same length of life as Italy had 1969. They really catched up, and they did it very fast. So I used to say, in short, Iran is like Italy 1970, but Mussolini is still in power. It's like a short summary. And I don't say whether the majority voted for him or there was a fake election or anything, but a lot of people voted for him in Iran. But how do people know this? Do people know this? I was invited to lecture at Bonnier's annual forum event. This is the media elite in Sweden. See, we are making a casino. We thought it was too vulgar for this School of Economics, but we have developed a casino game where you can bet with chips where Iran is, where Morocco is, where Mexico is. It's quite fun, and you win or lose. It's sort of a business model for our foundation if we would go with real money. And you see, Iran was there with. You hear me from the back? It's sort of when I turn around, it changes. You see Iran, that was Sweden 2007. Those violet, these dots, the small dots, that's the table at the Bonnier conference where they guessed where Iran was. So you can see that the Swedish media elite, it was those running the TV channels, the main editors of the journals and so on, they are like 20 years behind their time. Others are, academia used to be about 25 years behind their time. Politicians, also students, like 30 years behind their time. Actually, the best one, and that's sort of regrettable for a person like me to admit, but investor so far is the best one. They're just like 16, 70 years behind their time. But some know, some tables knew up here, But mainly we underestimate the catch-up of the emerging economies. We do not understand that the world is converging. The world is converging. And there still are politicians who have the attitude that Sweden should maintain its advantage. It's a försprång in Swedish. It's difficult to translate the mentality of försprång to English. But that's a very strange. Sweden has to specialize itself in a new world where all countries will live more or less on the same levels. You have to specialize and you find out what you are good at. You will not be ahead in everything. That is proven every evening when I leave my work. Not every evening, but I stay in my little room in Stockholm every second evening. And when I go to the bus station there at Solnavägen, you know, with the other PhD students who work late, I can see that they are Arabs and Asians. The Swedish PhD students go home at 7 around, you know. But the tough ones stay on, you know, and they are catching up. And no doubt about it. I like to have this observation of my personal life experience to fit with the data. That's when I believe statistics, when I can see that those who stand at the bus stand, they have the fastest economic growth, like, and those who go home early, you know, they have less. It makes sense to me. And this is what we did. Now, this is typical public health. Why do we have public health like here, you know? I used to show another example I used to show here is instead of Iran and this I can deselect here, I can make them a little more visual. Let me pick, we go forward to when the war started here, and we can have Vietnam there. You see Vietnam there, and we take United States up here, and then you take the rest away, and you can see what has happened between Vietnam and United States. It's amazing, isn't it? Vietnam, and they have very good data, and United States have good data. Vietnam today has the same health as United States 1990, more or less, than the family size. Vietnam today is healthier and have smaller families than United States had when McCain came home from the prison in Hanoi. And people don't know this. Al Gore jumped the stage and shook me and said, I didn't know that. I didn't have the slightest idea about that. And that was Al Gore, who loves statistics, and you can imagine the rest of them. That means that the leaders of the United States of America, they don't understand what is happening in the world. They don't see what's happening, because it's happening in the human dimension before it's happening in the economic dimension. And since it's happening in human before economics, it's also happening in human before military. So when I swap this axis to honor this school of economics, I have to put income per person, GDP per capita in purchasing power parity, inflation adjusted. Then we get this. You see, Vietnam is really lagging behind United States in money. They've caught up because life expectancy accumulates educational level, family infrastructure, modernization of concepts of hygienes, family planning, all this capacity, and educational level also. So you have a good educational level, you have good human resources in Vietnam, but they just earn still $2,400 in purchasing power per year per person. And United States in 1950 here, 1964 they were there. So how far back do I have to bring United States here? I have to go back to like 1860. Vietnam are 5 to 6 generations behind in economy, but they are 1 generation behind in human resources. So which is the country in the world that Kamprad loves most? Did you hear him in the summer program this summer? Oh, Vietnam, he said, you know, long live Ho Chi Minh, he says, you know. Because Vietnam is probably the country in the world today, and the country in human history, where we have had the largest discrepancy between the human resource capacity and the educational level and capacity to produce with the income level. Never have I had such a skilled population at such a low income, and so good, well organized, so densely populated. And the Vietnamese are really set for 25 to 50 years of fast economic growth. And this is a big difference. You can see here, you know, the concept of the industrialization of economic growth, you know, creating good markets, is that the economy will drive the health improvement. And so it did in West Europe, because the health improvement required the scientific discoveries and the technology development. Understanding of the importance of hygiene. 1855 we got public water supply in Stockholm. And that was after the number of cholera epidemic, and John Snow had proven in London that cholera was transmitted by water. It just took 1 year after that was proven to get the communal taxes to raise up and pay for money, because it was so good for business. But until that, we didn't understand that it would be good to do it, you know. It was handled in other ways. Public water in cities, and the Romans knew it already. They had the aqueducts, and they brought in, but this blood industrialization of Western Europe was so greedy, so vulgar. So it had to be repeated cholera epidemics, until they understood they had to have safe water for everyone. It's really a very vulgar background in which this fantastic economic growth occurred. And I like Fareed Zacharias. I hope you read Fareed Zacharias from Newsweek and his Post-American World. He really is the one who says that West Europe was amazing. What was created there with technology, science, freedom of mankind, a good market system was completely unique, and it was very good for the world, but it was very vulgar, it was very violent, and now everyone knows what is bad and good, and everyone will repeat. It's not stranger than that the European picked the numbers from the Arabs. Everyone will take what's good, so the rest of the world will catch up. What happens in this catch-up is that you first catch up in basic education, primary health, you get healthier, you get small family, you get higher educational level, and it's not like Naomi Klein thinks that they're only low-paid industrial workers with bad salaries in Asia that are taking care of outsourced industry. We are far beyond that. Now we have as many chemists and physics that are graduated from universities in India and China as we have in West Europe and North America together, and they are better because they are more clever from the beginning and they study harder. And big pharma is outsourcing like hell to Asia, synthesizing development of drugs and clinical trials. So this very strange situation is what Thomas Friedman called the flat world. I'll take away the deselection. You can see the flat world up here. It's like life expectancy is high, but money is still low. So it means that difference in sequence of development of countries is what makes us think that Iran, Vietnam, I asked Bonniers about Vietnam, Mexico, Iran, Egypt. You take any emerging economy and they think they are 20 to 30 years worse than they are. So life is very easy for a professor in global health. I recommend everyone who wants to be a professor, pick global health. It's very easy. People are so damned ignorant about what has happened. So like being in English literature, you know, political science, people know so much. It's very hard to be professor. My topic is much easier, much, much easier. Now, we developed this to show the bubbles. What more could we use them for? Look here. I'll show you something here, which is completely different. Never would I think, you know, that I would, as a professor in public health, I would travel around all oil and gas conferences in West Europe and lecture about the development of the use on oil and gas and energy. For God's sake, I'm the founder of Médecins Sans Frontières in Sweden. I shouldn't do this. But it so happens that the software that we develop to show the change in demography fits very well to show reserves here. This is oil production on this axis. So Saudi Arabia has a high oil production, and United States have a high oil production. The size of the bubble is oil-proven reserves. So it means that Saudi Arabia has a lot of reserves, but United States doesn't have so many reserves any longer. Drill, baby, drill. So they are going up in Alaska, they are going in the sea. It's finished soon, you know. This country, Canada, doesn't have so many research, yet they have, you know. This is a country that has research. Now this axis shows natural gas production. So United States also produce a lot of gas. And the colors show natural gas proven reserves. You follow? It's happening. So the question is now, unfortunately we have not got the Russian data before 97, but here we have them. 97 is like a face-off teckning between Russia and the United States here, you know. And what will happen? What will happen? You know, you see, they are falling in oil production, Russia is rising, and here Putin is papa, and here he goes, you know. It tells the story. Tells the story very nicely, you know. Or you can hire some consultant analyst which do a lot of shit in Excel for you and come out and tell you this story, you know, at $25,000, you know, 2 months later, you know. It's much easier to do Gapminder free of charge and just look at it. So, and the interesting thing is here you can see who are the ones who have gas. Who are the ones who have gas? Yeah, Putin has gas, Iran has gas, and Qatar has gas. From Al Jazeera up to Pravda, that's where they have gas, and that's it. The other have very low gas. They are light blue or they are dark blue. There's no more gas. So that's why. Who has oil reserve? This has oil reserve, this has oil reserve, this has oil reserve. Iran, this has oil reserves, and here is Chavez. I think that one of the driving forces for renewable energy will be security rather than climate. And that's why I think that climate will be safe, because the oil addiction is so stupid from a security point of view. And it's amazing for me to see that United States cannot plan ahead. So how much has West Europe planned ahead? Look here, you can see. We want to scale up this. We take away the big one there. Huh? Oh, first, perhaps I should show you. Ali, you can make sort of trails on this. It's quite illustrative to see what's happening with United States. Huh? United States, you know, they were very proud, had a big production there, you know, and then they are just going down, the oil production. They are falling. They have so little left, and it's more and more costly to take it up. So they are falling in oil production, and they don't have reserves which are enough. Now, we take that away, and we explore the data here, and we expand this area. Here we are. And then we're very interested in changing oil production. I would like to see, perhaps first I should look at this. It's so fun. I often get carried away. That's why I have to stop me somewhere. Because you can just, you know, Norway is there, 2007. And then you go back and you can see this is where the story started. You remember Norwegians used to be polite and humble. And then they had all this oil production. And then it sort of finished and they went for gas and then it's going down. You can see? They already peaked. The oil production in Norway has already peaked. It's on its way down. They're now living on gas. And it's on its way down. And then you get interested. Let's say, look at United Kingdom, you know, the defender of the free world. What did they do when they found, oh, North Sea has oil. Let's take it up and burn it, you know. And there's gas, so let's take it up and burn it. They're already here on their way back. So the defenders of the free world around the North Sea, they find out, oh, we have oil here. Look here, there's a little, look down there, there's oil down there, they say. Let's take it up and sell it and let's put the money in Lehman Brothers and these strange derivatives or things they have, you know, that's much safer. What do China do? China doesn't have oil. They make a hole down here, China, you know. They make a hole, you know, they buy a lot of Scania trucks, that's good, you know, to make the hole. And then they buy oil and they put it down. They're completely different because they plan 25 years ahead and they say, what if United States start a trade war with us? You know, they are so lazy and they just buy our stuff and then they borrow our money. We don't know what this is, and it's better that we buy some oil and put it down. Whereas these guys who had oil from the beginning down in the hole, they took it up and sold it. And then they bought stuff from China for the money. And that gave money to China to buy the oil and put it down in their hole instead. So basically, the oil has been taken up on. It's interesting, you know, because, I mean, it's a quarter economy. It's about 3 months ahead. And the oil is like when the oil field is explored, the whole economic setup is there's nothing else you can do than pump it. Of course, I'm not a specialist, but I'm a person who view this from a side, you know. And then you get very interested to see how much oil, take United Kingdom away, how much oil can Norway do? If I go here, you see you have energy there. This is free. You can go home and spend the night on this. So you go down here and you go to oil, and I want to see oil production per person. Because Norway has such a, you know, good civil society. They are innovative. They have been doing shipping. They should do well in this modern world without pumping all that oil, you know. And then you find out this situation, you know, that you have Norway down here, And now it's per person. And perhaps we should ask ourselves, how the heck come that Norway is pumping more oil per person than Saudi Arabia? Is it because Saudi Arabia has such a vivid civil society and are so innovative in all different sectors, so they can make money on other things, whereas Norwegians can just pump like this, you know, their only thing. It's very simple. Why are they in such a hurry to get the oil up? I can't understand it. And they just put it in money instead, which is such a bad thing to have these days, you know, because you never know where it is. Did you know that Norway were pumping more oil per person per year over the last decade compared to Saudi Arabia? Yeah, I mean, Saudis, they get all their money from this. They pay all their hospitals, they do everything. This is very strange. And then I asked all these people who do analysis, and extremely little few groups are aware of these relations. So what we actually created here was a way to explore the world, a way to look at the modern world, how it looks like and how it is. Of course, there's some who pump more oil than Norway. It's like United Arab Emirates, Kuwait and Qatar, but they're sort of apologized. Because they're small sandy countries that doesn't have so much health. You know, the advertisement in Al Jazeera can't pay for everything in Qatar, so they have to run the oil business. Whereas Norway, why should they be so high? Why don't keep the oil down there as the Chinese do if there come a war? Get the oil up, sell it, and let Putin rule. That seems to be the plan. Now, this was just to be drastic and to show how you can use this tool. And that's what we agreed to start this with. That the tool we developed to show population change could suddenly be used in oil instead. We just happened by chance to have developed a way of animating statistics, not visualizing, but animating it, that had a much broader application that we never imagined. The fact that we, with grants from SIDA, Swedish International Development Agency, aid money, we managed to beat Nasdaq stock browser, and we're pretty proud of that. Because that's a lousy, that's a very bad graphics. Because in stock market, you are just interested in getting the information within minutes or hours. You're not interested in understanding really long-term trends, and you do that linear in a way. This is the product. And then we came to the conclusion that our main problem was that the data was not freely available. And we got pretty furious about that. Because it's not like Pirate Bay. Someone privately, you know, make a film, or they make music, and they make anything, and then someone uploads it, and who owns it, and that's a debate I can respect, you know. But here it's tax money that paid for the data. And then you have to buy it back. You have these taxpayers who pay, and data is collected and all money, and then OECD. You've heard about OECD? As the Indians say, you know, a think tank based in Paris, they call it, in India. Infosys called it a think tank based in Paris. What do OECD do with all this data? Well, they compile it in a very clever way, having very skilled people. And then they sell it back to those who paid for it. So you pay twice for the OECD data. And they don't even use that money to pay for the whole compilation. It just recovers about 30% of it. It's the same thing as if you would charge for the sidewalks in the city. It's just unproductive. If we could get all data, which is tax-funded, accessible in unified format, in machine-readable and unified format, on the net, innovation would take place. In the same successful way as business could start in cities, when you had the public investment in the streets and in the sidewalks. And then business could start beside the sidewalk. I've been in countries where the state ran the restaurant. That wasn't good. It was Albania and Vietnam. No good. I don't recommend that. It was very bad service and bad food. But I've been to Wall Street, and I walked all the way up to New York Stock Exchange on a tax-funded sidewalk. Because it's bloody efficient to provide sidewalks as public goods. All cities do that. And this is what we want. We want the statistics to be the intellectual sidewalks of societies, based on which you can understand it in the democratic process, based on which you make priorities in your business, and from which you can take the information and you can do analytical works and charge for it. Basically, we want to take Thomson and Bloomberg out of market. And they can sell clever analysis, but not compiled data set. We could advance a lot if we would get data accessible for innovation in different ways. And then they would compete. Another allegory I use, like data is like the composition by Mozart and Beethoven. And those statisticians should be praised for what they've done. It's a great job. Very often we don't recognize the profession. You know. It's very tough to make national accounts good and usable. Really, really tough. It's not routine work. Always there's new sector, you have to make judgments, you know, and you have to make control and quality control. But they shouldn't make the instrument to play it. The composer, Steinway should make the instrument, Yamaha should make the instrument. It's much, we get innovation there. And then you apply the composition by Mozart on a Yamaha organ, and everyone can play it. And the cost of the music with Yamaha has come down so you can have it at home and you can play it at home. That's what we would like to see. And that's why we were convinced that we started a non-profit foundation. But we were not ideologically non-profit, we were strategically non-profit. Yeah? And we were not against open source code movement, it's just that the code wasn't our aim. The code was just the tool to liberate the data and make the data accessible. And that's why we found it wise to sell this to Google, and that we did in 2007. And Google acquired the software from the foundation. A foundation registered at the Länsstyrelsen in Stockholm can never ever be acquired by anyone. No? That's what's nice with the foundation. Foundation is a very good organization for a lot of entrepreneurship. Yeah? You can register, you pay tax like a company and so on, but you can take profit out of it. So you can deal with people. I can go to public service TV and say, use our website as source, because we are like a museum. We are like the Nordic Museum. You know? I can go to statistical agency and say, I will display your data. No one brings profit out of that. That's how private schools, privately run schools and hospitals in several countries are run by foundation. Then you don't get this ideological debate whether someone take profit out of tax money funded schools. But you can run them with the same efficiency of a business organization, which a public organization cannot do. So I'm not arguing for foundation as the big solver, but I think it's an underutilized tool. And often you can do it. And a foundation can then develop a product, like a software, which you can sell, and then Google paid the foundation. Unfortunately, not so much, but we are relatively independent for a number of years, where we can continue and use this technology. We also, in our agreement, had the idea that we had the agreement that we got a free license of it. So that's where it says copyright Google, but we have the data in it. But it's a long process to make this dysfunctional way of which we use and compile data. To make that function, that's a long way. It is not an easy catch. And perhaps this is the reason why the old man was involved. Because it was really someone who wanted data to be used. So this is more or less how it came about this. I saw a need within a narrow teaching of the change of health and family size in the world. A software, I can tell the story about the software development. It's a headache to develop software, you know. Avoid it if you can, you know. Because it's so frustrating. You just think you're going to catch it, and then you need more years, you need one more iteration. So it's cumbersome. You know. But we did it and we sold it. And it's not a paradise in Google, but they are serious. They were good partners and they are trying now. I think I stop there. And then you guide questionings and continuation.
Very good. So any questions on the contents, sort of the future of the world?
We're talking about demographics and natural resources. What do you think is the next killer application for Gapminder?
I don't think we have succeeded yet. I don't think we have succeeded. We have not scaled it. We have 2 to 3 million visitors per year, which stays between 8 to 10 minutes. And we don't get others to use it. You know, I don't. It's very difficult to teach. You know, did you see how I lectured? I used 2 fingers, like the chimp. There are very few professors who can use 2 fingers. They can just use one. You know. They go into PowerPoint like this, they say next, 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 like this, you know. Whereas I can use two fingers. I put the thumb on the Alt key and the index on the Tab key. And this fantastic window's open, you know. And I can go between different open applications, you know. And suddenly I'm here and I know how to open different new tabs, you know, also. And then I can go between the tabs. And it's pretty successful. Are you allowed to brag in this school? Yeah. I thought that in Karolinska you cannot brag. So if you go to Google, you know, to the internet and you go for the real stuff which you want, you go for sex, money, and health, you know. What do you get? What do you get? What do you get? What do you get? You see, I'm on top. And that's pretty good. 120 million hits. Yeah, this public health professor on top, you know, on sex, money, and health. You know, ain't bad. Huh? So you can do it, but really we have not scaled. We have not scaled. You know, look at what you can do on the internet. You know, and we have Google has now delivered motion charts, and within US they have always show the bookmark, unemployment rate. Here, if you search in US on unemployment rate, you get this up. And this is the first application from the Trendalyzer. We call our software Trendalyzer. So the Trendalyzer team, my son, his wife, and the 3 Swedish developers, plus others from Google, which I've joined. This is what they've done. The unemployment rate in the United States. Very modest, not moving bubble, yes. Just what fits in search, because it's very difficult in search to give you 4 or 5 different indicators at the same time. So how to conceptualize and fit with the search engine to make data accessible. But this is a little start they've done. And then you can go down to California here, and you see it's very interesting in California. You will see the dot-com bubble there was bigger, but in California open, and you go down to Silicon Valley, to Santa Clara, isn't it what it's called? Santa Clara County here. There you see the dot-com bubble. Huh? When unemployment, but the unemployment rate now is worse, you know. And then you think that's no good. I don't want to work there. If I go to there, I want to work in Alpine County, you know, and do some skiing. And you see, ooh, they have seasonal unemployment. So it's pretty. It's what I've been. But now they are struggling about it, and it so happens that United States of America has in the Constitution that the data is free. And people can use it, companies can use it. They have a very clear license for that, whereas other countries don't. And it's very haphazardly the policy for that.
Have you ever encountered any national interest to use the service?
Yeah.
In Sweden or?
Yeah, but that we learned. We thought like if you give free software to people, agencies, they would love it. They don't like it. They want to pay for it so that it doesn't work. They can phone someone and blame them. And that's why I see the illusion of free open source. It doesn't work. Open source doesn't work. People rather pay for something and someone take responsibility for the quality. That's also the background why we can't scale this as free. If we would have given it as open source, and we have 6 copies of these moving bubbles, including Microsoft. But Bill Gates was very fair. He mailed me, invited me to Seattle and said, why didn't you sell to me? I want this in Excel. It's a very widely used tool, he said. Which is pretty correct. And he said, because we didn't want the product, we wanted the service. We told them. Yeah, but I've always told them to do this. And the head of research of Microsoft have showcased the bubbles. But they don't manage to get it in. It's very tricky to have good interactive visualization for end users, and then the interface for those who upload data from this end, you know. And to make this both work, you know. And government agencies are still of the idea that they should run the animations on their web page. They think they should compose, they should build the instrument, and they should play the music, but they don't play well. And they compose well, but they don't play well. They are not funny, you know, and they don't bring it to. So it doesn't happen much. So, and the technology is more complicated. And why is it complicated? Why does Google Map works? Because it's longitude and latitude. And if you are looking for caves in Afghanistan, you have to have altitude, you know, or houses on Manhattan. Otherwise, longitude and latitude is enough for all archaeological remains, all restaurants, everything you can put in. Whereas public data and economic data stratifies itself into infinity. Because it's age, it's sex, it's company, it's sport organizations, it's communes, it's trade data, it's sport. It's so complex. The amount of public data, and 80% of public statistics is trade statistics in the world, when you go there. So to handle that, it's extremely complex. And to create a unified format, it will take a long time to really get it uniform. I had as a model Gene Bank, because we thought Gene Bank was so successful. You can find the gene, you upload it, other researchers can use it. We have about every second Nobel Prize laureate in medicine say, I'm not worthy of this, I just got the prize due to Gene Bank, because I uploaded my gene, and then someone sent an email and said, this is what we found in the cancer, and then suddenly we understood it. You know, so that you see the value of open sharing of public goods. It's extremely forceful, extremely powerful, and that should take play of statistics. But it's a long process. We are just one little stimulation. I rather regard us as a stimulation of what can be achieved. And business, Bloomberg and Thomson doesn't want this to happen, so they influence politicians, you know. OECD go out and say the policy of the economy of the internet with free available public data can change this, blah, blah, and then they sell it themselves. They talk free market, they do Soviet economy. It's a shame. The World Bank do the same. The World Bank compile world development indicators. It costs them $3 to $4 million a year, and they sell it and recover not even $1 million. They're tax funded up to here, and then they recover the price there, just like a Soviet production system. And this doesn't work. And to change all this will take a very long time. Very long time, and maybe someone comes in with a completely new idea from the side and do it. So it's rather that the reason is rather like planting a little oasis in the deserts. That's what we have done, and everyone say, oh, what a nice little oasis you have created. But we have not made the change. The change is yet to come, and many of you may have a competing idea or something which can join us, but there's a lot of resource out there. And you know, they get wild in the, I lecture to all the big corporate organizations, and IKEA, you know, and Pfizer, they say, oh, if we could get our business data in from one end of this, and you have the public statistics of that, we will suddenly understand the market in a completely new way. Why doesn't that happen? It's happened because that Bloomberg and Thomson, it's like medieval business models, you know, and it doesn't give the details and the way what you can do. So there's a lot of place for innovation in this area, and go there and compete with it.
Right. So final brief question, final brief answer.
I think I was just like, I was going to ask about integrating data, but you talked about that right now.
Yeah, but it's a point. To what level should the public... I mean, you could have sidewalks which are like this, you know, and then the city would not be successful, you know. No one would like to have a restaurant where people will fall on the sidewalk. So they will go and say, we don't like this. We want this government money to be used, you know, to put this back like this, you know. And then people will come to my restaurant, you know. This is what we have to do with data. It has to be even like this, machine readable, and then you put it up in the new technology. And then you offer the companies to put their data up. But we haven't achieved that yet. Not even within Statistics Sweden, you know, the different divisions doesn't have their data so that it can be compared easily. Because they have a stupid business model. They get government money and then they sell it. So different ministries in Sweden sell data to each other. The Gothenburg commune, they buy the same piece of data. Oh, it's Comecon, you know. It's still Comecon economy. And I think it would be much better if we even out what the government should do, and they are needed, and don't think that we should take away gathering of public statistics from the government. That's really what they should do. I know that some wild young people in the moderate party, they wanted to take it away in the last government, and then Gösta Bohman said, a government without statistic is like a company without bookkeeping. Forget it, he said, you know, and because you need it. You need the public statistics to run it. But that should be even out, you know, and their task should stop there. They can have their own web page, and their own web page should just fulfill. This is quite interesting. Do you think I own this? Is this mine? No. It belongs to the National Bank. If it was mine, I would add a 0 immediately. Because on my own property, I can add any zeros I want, what I see fit. That's why this is an extremely successful concept, And I want data to be the same. You don't mingle with the numbers, but I can use it. I have the right to use it, and I have this amazing right to transfer the use of it. Yes, you see? He liked it, he liked it. That's very efficient. That's what economy is all about. You see, government, staten and kapitalet, they both do their stuff. And then he became kind also, and he gives it back to me. So it's like, it's finding out that, and that I think if we could get to the same level, but that's a technical solution. So then I want the web page of the statistical agency should be like the watermark here. That's where you go check. But where you use it would be this little innovative by that you there at the back row, you got the idea, now you go home and you beat Gapminder, you beat Google, you beat Yahoo, you start your business with this, you find out how to do it, and you should compete evenly with your machine readable. The government should make this available for everyone. That's where Google has a problem here also. They don't want to buy the data and own it. They have a very nice policy because they say their service is not sticky. Google search is not sticky. They have to be the best. Otherwise, Bing and Yahoo will win. Because you can go to the other search engine any day, any hour, you just switch. It's not like these mail programs or anything that you have invested in. So they don't want to own data. They want really to be the best in making data available. And that system we have to get understanding for. Sometimes people have to retire and die before new ideas come in. Thank you very much. Tack så mycket. Tack så mycket.